Kia ora everyone, this is our Morning on Migration Live and we're loving the fact that we can actually come together as a team and share some of our experiences and answer some questions that we get asked frequently. If you have any questions that you want to ask us, please send them through. We've gone live on our Morning on Migration PTY Ltd Facebook page. So if you send your private messages through there or in the thread, we'll hopefully see them. So we've got 3 sets of eyes this week looking at all sorts of different directions because the questions come through either through Facebook Messenger, in the threads, sometimes often through emails, and sometimes even through text messages and messages that we receive other ways. So with 3 of us watching, we're going to keep an eye out for questions and answer those. We're here for probably an hour or less. Last week we had a big long session because we were trying this new system out for the first time. Also, our videos are going to go up on YouTube straight after, so we're starting to collect a library of YouTube live videos. Today we've got myself, Edina, we've got Kathleen, who's based in Sydney.
Hi everyone.
Laketown, Sydney. And we've also got Glenda, who's based in Whangapuro, I think it is, in Auckland, back home in Aotearoa. So we're going to be talking about a few different things today. We'll touch on some of the stuff that's on our website. We've been continuing to work on that, develop that, so it becomes a really useful resource and place to go for people to use. And Glenda, we've asked you to join us today because she is, not only does she work with us, she's an administrator as part of our team and been with us for over 2 years, but she has also started studying immigration law within the New Zealand system, and she's going to talk a bit about her experience. It's going to be great for those that are interested in wanting to study migration law and become a migration agent. We talk about it quite a lot. We are, as far as we know, we're the only specialists in Australia that deal with New Zealand and now really branching out into the Pacific Island area of migrants here in Australia. And it's valuable for us to have someone based in New Zealand who's learning about the New Zealand system and tying that in with the Australian system, because there are more things that we can possibly do to assist people along the way. So we're going to start off probably, I'll hand it over to Glenda. And for most of you out there probably don't realise that Glenda and I are actually first cousins as well. So we're family, and it's been great to be able to work together from 2 different countries. And you know, not only do we have the privilege of working together, but we also get to keep in contact over family stuff and we really touch base. Hey cuz, well here we go, here's cuz. But yeah, anyway, she's going to share a bit about her experience. She's a little bit nervous today, but she is an awesome talker. So I don't know why she's worried. She'll be fine. And we'll help guide you too. Okay?
Yeah. Good.
Oh,
Kia ora koutou katoa. Sorry, ko ki Marie. Toku ingoa. Thanks for joining the 3 of us today. I'm sure you all look forward to Edina's lives and the gems of knowledge and assistance that she provides. I know I do. I often watch the lives on my work phone while tapping away on my laptop. I find them really useful for my own learning, and I've actually really enjoyed watching Kathleen become part of the live feeds too. And I think both she and Edina have a great rapport with each other, and they're able to maximise their reach to you all and answer your weekly questions. So I think that's a great thing that we can do. It's a privilege to be part of this live feed today, to share a little bit about what I've been up to since last July, studying the graduate diploma in New Zealand immigration advice. Just for those of you who are just tuning in, and for the context of about what I'm about to share with you, I'm based in New Zealand, as Edina said. I live in a place called Whangapuro, which is about 20 minutes north of the Auckland Harbour Bridge on a good traffic day. And if you know where Orewa is, you'll know where I live. So yeah, I've been working at Mourning and Migration in the capacity of an admin manager and migration assistant here, and my role is fast-paced, and just like the other assistants in the admin, we have more of a behind-the-scenes role here, but I find it really rewarding and enriching. I love being on a video chat with Eds when she's about to make a phone call to one of our clients to advise them of their visa or citizenship that's been approved. It literally puts a tear or two in my eyes every time I hear one of those phone calls. And you would actually think it's me receiving an approval with the way I react. Anyhow, so yeah, let me start with some comments of the background of how study came about for me. I felt some time ago that I was at a stage in my life where I wanted to sink my teeth into something more meaningful. My two older children, they're in their late 20s. They've been out of home for 10 years because they weren't following my rules. Our youngest is 20 in a few weeks' time. He's in and out of the house, but I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd raised my family and it was a great time to start studying. I'd previously held roles within the sports sector that took a lot of my time away from my family, but because of that work experience, it's confirmed for me that I wanted to be involved in roles basically in the line of work where I could make an impact on a personal level, and I guess to feel like I was making a difference. So you see, I have a servant heart like my first cousin Edina, and she's the perfect role model. She hasn't asked me to say that, by the way. When I started at Mourning and Migration in January 2020, it was sort of right from the beginning of that time that Ed's encouraged me to take a long-term look at my involvement with her and the business of Mourning and Migration. Also, because of the kind of person she is and the way that she conducts herself, communicates and advocates for people, I guess it enabled me to reflect on how I could elevate the way that I personally assist our people, our fellow whānau and our fellow New Zealanders. So I could probably have been satisfied, in all honesty, with working in an admin role for years to come and serve Edina in that way and our people in that way. But on a wider scale, I had these thoughts that always nudged away at me from time to time, and I thought about how my actions could be truly beneficial to the cause of assisting those in need to secure their futures in Australia. So I thought I could help represent Mourning and Migration on a stronger front. And I guess the realization was that we would all be more powerful together, a force combined, so to speak. So yeah, that's pretty much about being a registered migration agent, and that's key to achieving those things. Excuse me. Anyhow, so yeah, I guess too, recognizing that becoming a registered migration agent will also help take the load from Edina and to share our knowledge. So after all, there's no point in having knowledge if you're unable to share that knowledge because of illegality. So in terms of work, you're affected by the Migration Act 1958 when you want to, if you have knowledge or experience in migration procedures and provide advice or assistance, you must be registered. So it was logical to want to take that next step. So yeah, so on that note, behind the scenes, I looked at the Office of Migration Agents Registration Authority website. I was telling Kathleen about that a little bit earlier today, about looking at how I could gain that knowledge and qualification. There wasn't really an easy way to go about attaining those things while living in New Zealand, but through my page scrolling, I actually found under an eligibility page that there was something called the Trans-Tasman Mutual Recognition Act, a mouthful. Under that act, a person holding a New Zealand licence is actually recognised as meeting all of the requirements to become a registered agent in Australia. So the next step I did was I Googled, how do I get an immigration licence in New Zealand? And that's how I discovered the Graduate Diploma in New Zealand Immigration Advice. And that's run by Toi Ohomai Institute of Technology. And I think off the top of my head, they have 5 campuses in the Bay of Plenty region. And they offer an array of courses, both on campus and online. So yeah, the great thing for me was the graduate diploma is offered online, and it runs in alignment with the uni semester calendar, which is basically 8 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 8 weeks on again, and then you have exams and you hopefully pass the papers and move on to the next one. Yeah, so for me, I did 2 papers last semester, passed those, and I'm doing 2 papers this semester. And with that online component, it means that I can still work hands-on for Māoridanga migration during the day and study after work hours. The fees for that course, I think off the top of my head, was it about $6,000 for the year? Complete course. The course is open to New Zealand residents and citizens, Australian citizens and Australian permanent residents. So that's something Ed might touch on later. The course takes about 100 people per intake, and there are 2 intakes a year. So one starts in February and one starts in July. So yeah, that's pretty much the framework for that. What else can I share with you? Entry criteria. Okay, so you must hold an undergraduate degree completed in New Zealand or an overseas qualification that's equivalent to a New Zealand undergraduate degree. If you're like me and neither of those things apply to you, you can actually apply to study as a special admission. So in my case, I was a special admission and I put together an application and a letter outlining my practical and professional experience of working. I also had to demonstrate my ability to analyse and problem solve situations by providing examples of issues in my previous employment. And I also had to send details of my schooling. So those things would help prove that I meet the English requirements to study in New Zealand as a domestic student. And if you were interested in doing that very course and you met that entry criteria, you would enrol as an international student from Australia and study online and attend lectures and tutorials online as well. I'd say, however, though, if you don't meet the entry criteria, which you can look up on the Toi Ohomai website, don't let it put you off. I never believed that I could study. I thought I wouldn't be able to make my brain wrap its head around any kind of teaching. It's been hard and challenging, but also really rewarding, and it's given me an appreciation for things that I'd overlooked before. So last semester, as an example, we learnt about relevant legislation, known as acts, so which are enforced in New Zealand, obviously worldwide, but such as the Employment Act, the Immigration Act, Citizenship Act, the Corrections Act, the Legal Services Act, just to name a few. And I learned that there's 182 pieces of legislation in New Zealand that's directly related in some way, whether it's minor or major, related to immigration. So I have enjoyed learning about those things, and also the time and the process that all takes to make legislation. So it helped put into perspective, I guess, why some laws are the way they are, and that you really just have to work with the laws in all that you do, regardless of whether you agree with them or not. So I think for me, before undertaking study, I would say out loud things like, what a stupid rule, like, don't they realize this affects me this way or that way? But now, having been given just a hint of, what it takes to pass a law, I recognize why there's knowledge in that and why it's valuable, and will also help me be a better person to give advice to our people. Yeah, what else can I say? I guess, despite what the website says when you check it out with regards to entry criteria, I think that if any of you out there want to become a registered migration agent, I believe the biggest requirement actually have the desire and responsibility to help people achieve the best outcomes for themselves in terms of immigration. In my view, this alone trumps whether you have a degree or not. So don't let it hold you back. Moving forward, I guess once I pass these 2 papers, I have to get 60% in my 4 assessments that I do and then pass exams. I'll be able to apply for my provisional license in New Zealand, which will allow me to provide advice under the supervision of someone who holds a full license here. There are restrictions on what kind of advice I'll be able to provide around certain visa categories, but once I attain my provisional, I'll be able to actually apply for my Australian license. So that's really exciting. The same restrictions that are in place in New Zealand will also apply to what I can do with Māoridanga migration. But on the whole, I'll just have 4 more papers after this semester and exams to complete before I can become fully licensed. So that whole process is 2 years if I keep passing. And then I should be fully licensed by June 2023. So yeah, that's really exciting to look forward to. I guess I'll just finish off by saying The more people who can get into the business of helping other New Zealanders achieve their immigration goals, the better. Having gone through the experience of enrolling and starting my study, I can truly say it's one of the best things I've done for myself, and I know that will benefit others. It does really feel like a tonga or a gift. And if you're interested to know more, and by the way, this isn't a plug for Toi Ohomai at all, they're not paying me to say that, but we'd be happy as a collective to help you navigate through those first steps to help get you there. Ngā mihi, everyone.
Awesome, Kaz. That was so good to listen to you speak about it kind of in its entirety, because we talk about it in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And I think for those that might be listening to this that are interested at looking at this profession as a career pathway, one thing that I've never seen at all in all the years I've been researching this area and working in this industry is people actually talking about their experience of how they've become agents. And you definitely do develop an appreciation for the profession, more so once you learn more about it and when you start studying, because it's just an area that no one ever grows up and says, I want to become a registered migration agent. You know, it's just one of those kind of odd professions, and particularly for us here in Australia, we know that travel between our two countries and from the Pacific Islands nations has, you know, we've taken that for granted because it's been a given for such a long time. But we now know over the years of laws changing how serious and important it is for us to be able to not only do something about our immigration status, but it's really important to have people within this profession that are competent, that are responsible, and, you know, and held to those compliance levels that only come with being registered. And, you know, that's where we have our governing bodies that make sure that they keep an eye on all of us registered migration agents to ensure that the integrity of this profession is upheld at all times. But interesting to hear what you're talking about with the New Zealand system. And, you know, for anyone out there that's listening about this area, I was really stuck because although I became a migration agent, it was really, really difficult for me to find any other migration agent that was truly kind of in the same boat as me as far as, you know, the laws, how the laws were affecting us personally or our family members or our wider community. And, you know, and I did work with some other really lovely migration agents towards near the beginning of my career, starting out, and they were great, but it's really hard to grasp something if you're not kind of connected somehow to it. And I do feel having those connections does kind of change the way your perception of how you manage cases moving forward. So that's why when we met Kathleen and, you know, had her come on board, you know, we were really excited, and the more we've worked with her, the more excited we get day by day, because she is such a great fit with the vision and the belief systems of what we have in supporting our community. But going back to Glenda and, you know, discovering that she could study from New Zealand, so the fear for me was I wanted to encourage people to do, you know, to maybe go down this as a career path, but it is so difficult because in order to study it in the first place, you have to hold a bachelor of something. You have to have a degree. It doesn't have to be in immigration or law or anything like that. It's just so long as it's a degree, and that's it. And I think in years gone by in Australia, they did have a more lenient criteria. Once upon a time, I don't even think you had to have any form of qualifications. You could just jump straight into it. But nowadays, you definitely do have to have a degree before you're allowed to even enrol. Whereas New Zealand does have the same threshold as well, but they still have that component where they will recognise your prior learning, prior experience, and consider whether you would be someone who could, one, cope with the studies, and two, be suitable to go through, because the last thing universities want to do is sign people up that are going to struggle and fail, because it's a big thing to commit to in the first place, and they really are looking out for your best interests and not wanting people to just jump in and think, oh, I can do this, and then find that it's really tough. So we were fortunate in that regard, and we're also doubly fortunate that if Glenda studied in New Zealand, by the time she gets to the end of her studies, or there'll be a certain point, she will then be allowed to register in Australia under what we were talking about with the mutual recognition arrangement. I forget the whole term, but yeah, it's a long-winded term. And we do that with lots of other professions. I remember, I started off as a school teacher in New Zealand, and when I came across to Australia, I had to get my qualifications recognised by Australia and go through. So lots of other professions do it as well. But same thing happens with migration. And the other really exciting thing about studying migration in New Zealand is the cost. So the cost to study migration, what is it now, Kathleen? It's a diploma, isn't it now?
Yeah.
It's somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 to do that course, whereas New Zealand offer it so long as you're a New Zealand citizen or an Australian citizen, permanent resident be the country. I think I'll have to double check that with Glenda, but there is, I know 100% if you're a New Zealand citizen, you can actually do the course. It costs, I think, just shy of $6,000, which is a fraction of what it costs here. Of course, you need to be able to transfer what you've learned in New Zealand. And one of the things that Glenda has always worried about is, that's fine if I learn the New Zealand law, but I still don't know the Australian law. And I guess the benefit of working in a company like ours is that, yes, you will study in New Zealand, but once you've learned all of that framework, we will then help you build the parallel framework from an Australian perspective. And we've already started teaching Glenda in that respect. So that would be the one thing that I think people might find challenging, but I know people have done it where they've done their licenses in New Zealand and then they've transferred across to Australia and then had to learn the Australian system. But I think once you have the framework, that's the most important thing. You can start to add the new learning much easier. Yeah. Do you want to add anything to what I was talking about there, Kaz, about how the changes between the New Zealand and the Australian systems? Because for you, it's been quite confusing.
It has, but I guess, for me personally, I'll obviously be in a really good position because I have you to back me up whenever I go, of course, you can steer me back on. And not everybody will have that opportunity. And I recognise that is going to be a big, probably a potential issue for some that would take on the New Zealand law and then transfer to Australia. But I think the more you get into it, certainly what I've learnt in this last couple, even just in these last few weeks, our paper is starting to align. The paper I'm doing now is starting to align to some of the things that we work on in Australia. So that is going to make it a lot easier to transfer the knowledge. I think the biggest issue is really just the terminology. But once we so as an example, they refer to a registered migration agent such as yourself in Australia and using that term, and in New Zealand it's a licensed immigration advisor. That's only a very small scenario, but it's sort of indicative of what the challenges are when there are differences in terminology and how to apply it. I think on the whole it's not a big deal. It's just a matter of putting things into practice, and if you're someone that's a logical thinker, I think you'll be fine in terms of being able to apply the rules and the knowledge and transfer it across. It's just a matter of time learning that. I don't know if I can elaborate any more than that because it is what it is.
And is there if someone came to you and said, hey, I'm really interested in doing what you're doing, what's some tips that you would give them to you know, help them prepare for the study? Because I know when you started, you had nothing to gauge what it was going to be like. You'd never actually studied formally in your life, had you, like tertiary level education? So this was the first time in your life.
Yep.
And yeah, thinking about, you know, other people out there that might be in the same position as you, what kind of things would you, if you were to be able to, if you were you know, able to look back now to yourself at the beginning, what kind of advice would you have given yourself?
Yeah, sure. I think the biggest thing is not being afraid to reach out. I think you're quite scared in a formal learning environment to ask questions because you think that you should know more. But basic really is just that. There's when you grow some confidence around that, you actually end up building confidence in other people to ask the same things. We're all in the same boat and we're all learning something new. For me personally, it was just because I didn't have, as you say, anything to gauge it on from any past experiences. I didn't know what they were looking for. How do I design my answers? How do I design my assessment around what you want, you know, what the tutor wants? But it became clear after my second assessment that, because I got relatively good marks for what I was doing, but I lost lots of sleep trying to do it because I didn't know that I was doing it right or wrong. But certainly by my results, it proved that I was doing something right. But if anything, I learned from last semester not to rush through things and read things a lot more and connect with your fellow students. So if you are able to build a good network with a couple of people in your groups, it's always good to just have a sounding board to reflect on how you interpret rules, because obviously you have to work by regulations and instructions, and what I might read might be a totally different interpretation to how somebody else reads it. And so it's always good to bounce those ideas off people and your teammates, your study colleagues are the best place to start. Yeah, that's probably what I've learned from last semester to now.
What about you, Kathleen, with your experience with studying here in Australia? You and I are the same. We did our studies here. How did you find it when you were studying? Well, you're still actually, Kathleen's still studying. She's gone to a higher level. She's doing her master's. So
people without a life. I totally relate to everything that you've said, Glenda. And I think the great thing about your experience is that you're also working in the environment as well, which really helps. When I was doing my studies and going through my studies, I was not really working in the space. And so for me, having to, you know, just deal with the theory, but not really have too much practical experience, I got a rude awakening when I finally entered into, you know, working in the job. And what many people don't realize out there is that Glenda brings a wealth of experience in terms of her administrative skills, her organization skills, her ability to organize information that comes in from our clients into such a systematic way really helps us with our work as well. And so if I were to encourage anyone coming into this industry, is that you've got to find something that's going to suit you and your lifestyle. So for me at the time, just doing the study was really all I could cope with at the time. And Glenda, you're lucky that you've been able to do both, but I know that it's still a struggle, and you're doing the best that you can to try and balance those two aspects of your life. But I think when you find something that you're really passionate about and you really, really are interested in, somehow you manage to find a way to balance everything. And even though it's crazy, but you keep doing it because you really love it. And at the end of the day, I really like how you said about Edna's servant heart, and you also having a servant heart. A lot of what we do in this role is really serving our clients and doing the best that we can for them, and having that educational experience, and that doing all of this education really is just to help them at the end of the day, so that we can know what is best and what advice to give them at the end of the day. So yeah, thank you. I really appreciated you sharing that story, your story and your journey, because I had no idea about that pathway at all. And if my husband knew about it, he probably would have told me to go down that pathway. It would have been cheaper. But, you know, it's really good that that pathway is available for people who might be interested to come into the industry. It's not a well-known pathway. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Yeah.
Very welcome.
I've got a question from somebody that I thought I'll answer. I've messaged her to let her know that I'm going to answer her question shortly. So she's probably been waiting very patiently for us to get to her question. And I'm not sure if you guys have got any other questions yet, but I'll start with this one. So we'll answer a few questions and then we'll carry on with some of the other areas that we wanted to touch base on. Would you believe half an hour has gone by already? The time actually just really flies when we're doing these lives. Now, it always seems like it's going to be forever and then it goes by in a flash. Okay, so this question comes from someone, they're asking, so they say that they're a New Zealand citizen and they have 2 children that are New Zealand citizens as well. The husband is New Zealand with Australian citizenship. So I think they mean that the husband's got dual citizenship, from what I can gather. Now, so this person's saying that they work part-time, so they don't earn the threshold to apply for the Kiwi pathway, which is a subclass 189 New Zealand stream. And she's asking, is our only option for him to sponsor all 3 of us on a partnership visa? So do you want to have a go at answering that, Kathleen?
Yeah, so I can see there that, because she doesn't probably meet that threshold of the 53,900. And if her spouse is an Australian citizen, then of course he could sponsor her on a partner visa. And a partner visa is an option where she can also include her children. I wonder if does it say there if the children were born in Australia?
No, I'm assuming.
Oh, sorry, her children would gain citizenship through her husband, assuming.
Possibly. So yes, it would depend on when her husband became an Australian citizen and when her children were born. So I suppose we can assume that her husband's become an Australian citizen after the children were born. Maybe she'd like to just send me a quick message to confirm that. So let's say, for argument's sakes, her husband didn't become an Australian citizen until after the children were born, then it's likely that they'd have to do some kind of sponsorship visa, whether they are sponsored individually as children on children visas, on child visas, such as the 802, or it's probably cheaper for the family if they do a partner visa and include the kids that way.
Yes.
If Dad was a citizen before the kids were born, and the kids were born in New Zealand, then they can apply for citizenship by descent. So they don't need to apply for a permanent visa first. They can just get citizenship by descent, and of course his wife would have to still be possibly sponsored on a partner visa. That is a pathway. I'm not sure if this person has explored the possibility also of the resident return visa. We always look at that as a possibility for all New Zealand citizens and other citizens who may once upon a time in their life come into Australia and had a permanent visa in the past. So the resident return visa is available to anybody who used to be a permanent resident of Australia. The only difference with New Zealand citizens is that we were never issued a permanent visa or a permanent visa label sticker put in our passport like how it used to be back in the past. So for us, it's about being aware that the 1st of September 1994 is the cutoff date for when we were recognised the same as permanent residents, pretty much. We were exempt non-citizens. So it does depend. When people ask us questions, and we say this on every live, one of the big reasons is we can't give direct answers is because there's a lot of unpacking that needs to happen within a question. And when you don't know what you don't know, you don't necessarily know what to ask, how to ask it, what type of information is needed. And to be really thorough and ensure that we provide the right advice and the correct advice, that's the reason why we ask people to book in a consultation. We can have up to an hour where we've got enough time to really explore a person's situation in full and be able to provide the full answer. So with this question, with the information we've been given so far, we don't know the full details, but I would say a partner visa definitely looks like one of the possibilities. There may be other possibilities, but we don't have enough information to explore that. In saying that though, and with the experience that we have with visas, particularly with New Zealand families, is that a partner visa is actually a fantastic visa to apply for. And Glenda knows this. I never used to say that about partner visas because partner visas are a lot of work, and they are, you know, out of all the visas that we do, they're the most, what I call, paper heavy. Like there's so much paperwork involved with a partner visa, and Glenda knows that all too well because she's the person that helps me to, she formats all of the files, she labels everything, she files everything, she gets it all ready for the actual application, and that is an enormous job just on its own. So, but in saying that, the partner visa we find now is a fantastic visa. If you've done everything right, you've got everything in place, you've covered off all of the criteria plus whatever quirky bits and pieces that the department might want as well over and above, you could possibly even have your visa granted within 4 months, 3 months at the soonest, depending on the length of your relationship. So with this relationship, I'm seeing they've got 2 children, so they've obviously been together for at least 2 years. You can fast track certain types of partner visas, and in this case, it can be fast tracked. Whereas, and that's because they've got children together, they've been together for longer than 2 years. Of course, we'd have to look at all the evidence and really unpack the whole situation to be 100% confident that that's the right advice. But from the surface, it looks like that's where we'd be heading if we were going to look more closely at this case. And in comparison to the income threshold visa, the 189 New Zealand string visa, that is actually, and this has done a whole flip around, that's a last resort now that we look at. It's great because it's cheaper, but that's about it. And I mean, it's cheaper by about $3,500, but the wait period is so long, it can run anywhere from 18 to 24 months easily. And the problem is that it might be about $3,500 difference, but you've got to be aware that when you're putting in a visa application for a 189, when a visa takes a long time to be processed, what's going to happen is that you're going to need to update your police checks, you're going to need to update possibly your medical, and those things can be quite detrimental because if anything happens along the way in that 2-year period, and it does, you know, people will start at the application process, they're healthy, and then within that 2-year period they might develop some kind of serious illness, and we've seen it happen. And if the visa had been granted, you know, within the first 12 months, they would have avoided the heartache of not passing the medical the second time around, for example. Or you don't want to be getting convictions because that could. So it's really important, particularly with the way politics is and how politics has an enormous influence on the way immigration legislation is not only put in place, but how it's to be carried out by the department and how they are expected to carry out the different expectations. that can have a big detrimental effect. So partner visas, yes, they're more expensive. Oh, and I was going to say, when you do a medical, that costs you about $400 a pop. So if you have to do another medical, that, you know, suddenly that cuts into that little bit of money that you would have been saving, and the waiting, and also depending on the ages of your children, because with a 189, you've got to, if you've got children who are turning 18 or have turned 18 and you've got them included in that application, they have to remain dependent until the visa is granted. Now, if the visa can take up to 2 years, that means those children can't go out and work. Like, they can work little part-time jobs, but they might have really good opportunities to do paid apprenticeships, paid employment. But, you know, it's a little bit crazy that these types of visas would force children to remain dependent the whole time, particularly when they could be contributing to the economy by working and paying taxes and helping, you know, businesses and industries, particularly in a time like we've had now where people are crying out for, you know, staff, and how the pandemic has really affected those types of things. The same is true of a partner visa with dependent children. However, because we see the partner visa being granted so much faster, at the most we'll see it granted within 8 to 10 months at the moment. That's for the fast track cases. Then, you know, it's not going to disrupt your life too much, but 18 months to 2 years is a very, very, very long time for people to be waiting. And like I said, if they've got children who are ready to go out and work or do apprenticeships, paid apprenticeships, they can be greatly disadvantaged by that waiting period. And so those are the types of things to consider. And when we're doing consultations, we'll always ask a family what their particular goals are. Some people say, I don't care how long it takes, just I'm sweet as to wait 2 years just to save a bit of money. But, you know, if it were me doing it, and I always say this in consultation, if it were me, if it was my family, I'd do it this way. And I'll do it this way because the most important thing that we think people should be doing is having good advice and being able to make informed decisions for themselves and their families. And if they want to wait, kete pai, that's all good. But just be aware that these are the pitfalls. There's always pros and cons with whatever advice we give. Yeah.
Having said that, though, we did have a good news story earlier in the week, didn't we, with a family who agreed their subclass 189, and that was due mostly as well to a lot of last-minute contact with Minister's office by yourself, Edina, and you know, dealing with getting this particular application fast-tracked because the child was going to turn 23.
Yes, that's right. So there's a 23-year-old rule when it comes to certain visas. The 189 New Zealand stream visa has this rule, and what the rule says is that if you have a dependent child, you can include them up to the age of 23. But what that means is that you don't apply for the visa just before they turn 23, because it's likely not going to be granted unless you have special circumstances and you can push for it to be granted. But the visa has to be approved before your child's 23rd birthday on that day. Once they turn 23, it's over for them. They have to be withdrawn from the application. It won't affect the other family members' visas. They'll still be granted their visas provided the department is satisfied with the application. But that 23-year-old, unfortunately, will have to miss out. So again, that 2-year period, if children are around the 21-year-old age, I would be saying don't delay, get it in as fast as you can, because that waiting period can be a long time, and we have to be prepared for that. So with this case, I'll tell everyone what happened with this particular case. It was a family of 4, and the family had the dad of the family, or the husband of the family, came to our Logan information session up in Queensland last year, and from there he booked in to have a consultation. the very next day, he was very eager. He told me about a situation, the ages of his two sons. And he had a son that was 22. He had just turned 22 years old, and I was aware that it was taking longer to do this 189. The 189 was the only option for this family. But he was eager, and I said, look, we can try it. I can't guarantee it's going to be granted because of this, and this. So we lodged the application in June last year. So we lodged it as fast as we could because we knew that time was of the essence. We lodged it, and then we worked really hard at making sure all of the criteria was met. And even though we worked really hard, there were still things that the department wanted towards the end. But one of the strategies that I tried, and I'd never done a case like this before, but one of the strategies I tried was I emailed the department, which is easier said than done. It's easy to email the department. It's difficult to get a response from them. So when you send an email, you kind of hope that someone might read it, but the chances are 9 times out of 10, you probably won't hear anything back. So what I did was I contacted the department 2 months before the child's 23rd birthday, and I said, look, we have an application which was lodged in June. The application is decision ready, which means everything's been done, all the health checks have been done, police checks are all up to date, and all the paperwork's in order. Could we please, begging the department, could someone please assess this application? We never heard anything back, but a little while later we did get a response from the department, not acknowledging that, but they did ask for some other information. So we provided the other information as quickly as we could. So we had it back within, I think, 4 or 5 days, because there was a weekend in between. And then we waited and nothing happened. And this family, their child is turning 23 this Sunday. So we've had 3 short weeks, because we've had Good Friday, Easter Monday, and then we've had Anzac. So that means we've had 3 4-day weeks in a row right before this child turns 23, which means the department are open 4 days, not 5 days. So we'd lost 3 days in the last 3 weeks. And I had started to email the department every day, just again in the hope that might respond, but nothing was happening. On the weekend, I was thinking really hard, and this is part of our job as registered migration agents, that we're there to really advocate, not just do the applications, not just kind of hand it over to the department, but really push for our clients' applications to, like, we want them to be approved. It's not in our interest whatsoever to do applications that are going to get knocked back. So I kind of had an idea, and I contacted my client and said, can you contact your local member of parliament, your MP, on Tuesday, like first thing Tuesday morning, and go and see them every day. Like, just go, because we've only got 4 days, and if it's not granted by Friday, it's over type thing for that child. The rest of them would be fine. They'll get the visa eventually, but that one. And coincidentally enough, that child just graduated last weekend from university with honours. So really just someone who would be a fantastic asset within his industry and to Australia. And so, everyone was really nervous. So he said, yep, he would. And then come Tuesday morning, I was back in the office, and I thought I'll do the same, because even though they're based in Queensland, and he took the day off work, he had booked in to see his local MP and everything, did that. I contacted my local MP down here in South Australia, and just, this is what you do when you start grasping at straws, but this is part of our role, is to find out, we don't want to leave any rock unturned. So I contacted the local office here down in South Australia, down the Limestone Coast here, and fortunately and thankfully the local member here was happy to help endorse the situation. And so I had to send them an email just with an outline, and then they forwarded it on to the MP up in Queensland and of course my client was going to see the MP. So there was just this kind of additional additional support that comes from local MPs. And I've never been a politically minded person, and I didn't know, and I don't know if other people out there are like me, but I didn't really realise the role of an MP.
Yeah.
MPs are there to help their constituents. Yes, they will listen to you if you are Australian citizens, but they are also interested in listening to people who are not Australian citizens as well. And they are interested in hearing how people within their community are being affected, not just by immigration, by all sorts of things. But they do get approached a lot with immigration matters. And if people out there listening and are in a similar situation with a child that's about to turn 23, that will be my go-to point. So what happened after we had approached our local MPs on Tuesday, I can say that on Wednesday the visas were granted, and we were utterly relieved, of course happy. The husband, Dad, when I called him, these are the phone calls that Glenda's talking about.
Yeah.
And he was just, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry and he was just obviously ecstatic with the news and relieved and happy. And so, that was a moment of absolute triumph, and those types of experiences for us at our end is, that's the big reward of what we do, because we know now that this family is set up. In a year's time, they'll be able to access and apply for Australian citizenship, and they will be another family who would have otherwise had, been a typical New Zealand family, live here for decades and not have permanent residency or citizenship. So it was a good week. Very happy.
Perfect birthday present too for that child who was on that application that could have potentially had to withdraw, but luckily thank you that he was able to get his visa.
Yeah, and look, our client, he had said to me the day before the visa was granted, he said, look, I'm so happy with the way that I can see you've been really trying to help. And he says, from what the person that I saw at the Logan Centre to the person that helped me in real life, he says, if ever you want me to speak or share or thing, I'd be more than happy to do that. And that was great. And I said, oh, that'll be awesome. But it gave me an idea, and I thought, we're doing these lives, and we've worked out now how to do, instead of just one person, I want to really put it out to our past clients or even current clients that if they want to jump in, and we can have kind of like a guest or two every so often. It'd be great for other people to come join us in our lives, and I see this as more of a podcast situation where people can listen not to just what we have to say, but real life situations out there, because that's what people are really interested in. They want to know, how can they go from being a temporary resident to becoming a permanent resident and eventually a dual citizen? That's what they really want to know, and I think that would be a great way to communicate that. So if anyone's listening to this minute of the live and you are not, you're not shy, or you'd be willing to give it a go, we'd love to hear from you. We think that, it's nothing better than listening to people, coming from the horse's mouth. So I will approach this family and see if they would like to. But he said he would be more than happy if we go to Brisbane again. He goes, I would be more than happy to share, what we went through, and very big. But then, we're so busy, and we've had lots of complex cases. We have this yippee moment, and then we're like back onto the next really complex case, and then we're like, oh, and it's kind of like never ending.
How about we take on a few more questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Got some more there?
I've got a question. The question is, hi there. I'm a 54-year-old Kiwi living in New South Wales for around 7 years, and I'm wanting to apply for PR and was advised to contact you for help. Is that possible? it certainly is possible. We would love to be able to help you.
When people ask me questions, I always have to write it down because I have to break it down.
I'm the same.
If I don't see it.
I have to see it in writing.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Can you repeat that again quickly?
54-year-old Kiwi living in New South Wales.
Yeah.
For around 7 years.
Yeah.
And he's wanting to apply for PR.
Okay. When people say they want to apply for PR, that tells me straight away that they know that they're temporary residents, and that's a big win for us as far as awareness goes. Because a lot of New Zealanders, even to this day, we know, don't realise that they are not PR. They think they are. Okay, so 54 years old, been here 7 years. So what we know is that anyone who arrives after the 2001 law changes, that was the most significant law change that affected us, we have got no option but to apply for a permanent visa first, unless you happen to be in Australia on the 26th of February 2001. Even if you were here for a holiday at that moment, if you were here for that one day, you're in luck. Or the other criteria is 365 days between February 99 and February 2001. And there's one more that I've talked about before many times through my lives. There is a 3-month window after the law change in 2001. Basically, if you might meet one of those criteria, then you could already be recognised as a permanent resident under the Citizenship Act, not the Migration Act, because there's 2 different acts when it comes to immigration. But all you want PR for is so that you can access dual citizenship. Because dual citizenship, the reason we encourage people to go for dual citizenship is because once you become an Australian citizen, you are no longer considered a non-citizen. Non-citizens are governed by the power of the Migration Act. Now, the Migration Act is the area of law that is loaded up with what's called visa cancellation powers. And
visa cancellation powers.
Yes, and the mistake that people can make is think that visa cancellation only happens to bad people, only happens to criminals. We can tell you that it can happen to anybody, even people that have not got any convictions or broken the law. So it is something that can happen very easily. So that's a big reason why we encourage people to try and get out of that group of people, of non-citizens, and get in the citizen group, because that area of law with all of those cancellation powers has no power over a person who has citizenship. People will argue and say, oh, but citizenship can be stripped of you too. Yes, that's true, but only in absolutely extreme circumstances, not like the Migration Act. And the extreme circumstances are usually to do with if you decide to get involved with terrorists and terrorism. That's pretty much the threshold. Whereas with the Migration Act, you can have your visa cancelled for looking the wrong way. So, all right. Okay, so with this situation, they definitely need to apply for a visa. They can look at some of the pathways. The most common pathways we look at is the resident return visa. So given this person's 54, I actually like it. The older people are, the more I like it, because the chances are of them coming before 1st of September 94 is higher than obviously a younger person. So that would be the first question I'd be asking this person. If not, if they've been here for 7 years, the other thing we always want to check is, have they been living in Australia before the 19th of February 2016? That's the other cutoff date for the New Zealand, the subclass 189 New Zealand stream visa. That's the one where you have to earn a minimum of 53,900 taxable income for 3 years in the last 5 years, and so on and so on. You must, but the most important thing is you had to have been living here before the 19th of February, before the 19th of February, and you have to have been residing here for 5 years continuously before you can apply. So those are the 2 pathways I'd be looking at. And of course, the third one is always a partner visa. We don't know if this person has got an Australian citizen partner or an Australian permanent resident partner, or a New Zealand citizen partner who is a protected SCV holder, or otherwise known as an eligible New Zealand citizen. So if they have, then there's a possibility they could look at a partner visa too. So those are normally the most common ones that we see. So what else do I need to answer with that question? Is that what I'm...
That's exactly what you needed to answer, and also that they need to book in a consultation so that we go through that all with you.
I mean, all of that information about those pathways is on our, well, except the partner visa, but the RRV, the resident return visa, and the 189, that information's on our website. And but yes, if you want to know for sure, as well as, remember, there's lots of other finicky criteria that needs to be assessed before anyone should lodge any application of any kind with immigration. And that's where a consultation comes in handy, because there are other things to explore before going down that path. And if you want to book a consultation, you can go on to our website, and there is a link called Book a Consultation, and there's a form that you click on, you fill it out, and you can add your details, and then we'll contact you to book in a time. Okay, you got another one?
How much time have we got left? Have we got time for another one?
Yeah. We've got 1 minute. So what we've got there, they've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, this is one that I thought was interesting to deal with, because it's one of those ones you don't hear about all the time. But this was a former 501 detainee, but they had their visa reinstated and was lucky to stay in Australia. However, in 7 years have had no past criminal convictions. They've been in stable employment and want to know their chances of becoming an Australian citizen. She's been told that they may be denied entry into Australia if they travel back to New Zealand for family reasons because of that jail sentence. So is there anything that she can do to guarantee entry into Australia should she choose to travel overseas? She's had a lot of conflicting information and really confused about what to do. She's happy to pay for any services to help with the proper necessary information to moving forward in this particular case.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a good question. And I can see that this question is going to become more and more common, particularly with the large numbers of people who have had their visas cancelled under Section 501. For those people who don't know what Section 501 is, that's the area of the Migration Act that is used against people who have convictions or sentencing of 12 months or more, usually, not always. And this person has had their visa reinstated, which is fantastic, which means that they're allowed to stay in Australia, but of course they're afraid to travel. We know that people do travel that have had their visas reinstated, and they've been able to travel in and out of the country quite successfully. But we've also heard of instances where they've not been allowed back in the country. So there is conflicting information. There's and that inconsistency can make people really nervous, and it makes us really nervous too on what we should advise. So the best advice I can give is obviously Australian citizenship is the one thing that will guarantee that you'll be allowed back in the country. When you've had a visa cancelled and reinstated, I need to go and check this in the law. It's been a while since I've read it, but I'm pretty sure in the Citizenship Act, it says that you can't apply for citizenship within 5 years of, there's a couple of rules. There's a 2-year rule, and there's a 5-year rule of, you've got to wait. I think it's up to 5 years before you can apply for citizenship. And even then, you might not be guaranteed you'll be granted it. I dare say there'll be some hoops that person is,
will need.
Likely to jump through, but it's definitely possible. And it's good to hear that, she's looking into it now, because I think she's asking at a good time. It's been 7 years, so the longer the better, obviously, but at the same time, she wants to be able to travel with peace of mind, knowing that she can come back to Australia because it's her home.
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, we should still encourage them to book in for a consultation, and we'll definitely be happy to help them out. And of course, our booking details are on our website, so everyone jump on the website. Edna's been doing a lot of work on the website, so I'm sure there's a lot of useful information on there. So hopefully people are able to access that quickly as well. Anything else that we need to, if we're still gonna?
Yeah, I'm just looking at something. Kia ora to everyone that's been jumping in on our live. Thank you for letting us know that you're there. I said to Glenda at the beginning, oh, don't worry, cuz it'll only be like maybe lucky if 6 people are going to be listening to us. And there's no chance of these videos going viral. Like, who's going to want to know about this on mass? So we're safe. We're safe as houses. So Jadine wants to know a little bit about the visitor visa. Do you want to, they just want to know some information about that. Do you want to explain how the visitor visa works, Kathleen, or you want me to do that?
Yeah, so I'll explain, and then you can jump in and cover the gaps that will probably be there. So yeah, tourist visas, we can start to see that a lot of people are trying to apply to come onshore now that, you know, the travel restrictions have been lifted. Tourist visas can be applied for online, just like most visas now. And, you know, for tourist visas, I think the key thing there is having a genuine reason why you're coming here to visit in the first instance, and being able to show that you can support yourself or have support when you come here to Australia. So there's no temptation for you to have to work in order to, you know, fund your holiday or your stay here. You've got appropriate funding. You've got someone that, or if someone might, you know, be giving you support in that regards, you can provide that evidence as part of your application. Now, tourist visas, off the top of my head, I can't even remember how much they cost. I think they're what, in the 300 mark now. Home Affairs.
70, I thought.
I think it's about $160 odd to $300 odd. It's cheap if you apply from outside of Australia. It's more expensive if you apply, because some people apply for a visitor visa from inside Australia, especially if they want to get an extension.
That's right. 370 if you're applying in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
And at the moment, they're saying it's taking about $145 if you're applying from outside of Australia.
Yeah.
And at the moment, if you're applying outside of Australia, it's taking 25% of applications up to 15 days, 50% of applications 40 days, 75% of applications 3 months, and 90% of applications are taking about 20 months to process. So I wish we could give you, you know, an exact date as to when these applications are processed, but your guess is as good as ours. But I think one of the key issues is that you provide that the application is complete. You provide good information and good evidence in terms of what you might be intending to do while you're here in Australia. Is it because you're here to visit family for a particular event, like a birthday or a wedding? Whatever the reason being, must be a genuine reason, and that they can see it's a genuine reason why you're intending to visit Australia. And also there's the intention to return. So have you got a job back in your home country? Do you own property in your home country? Do you have other caring responsibilities that require you to have to return back home? So there are all these sorts of issues that you need to consider when lodging an application for yourself, or thinking about an application for a family member as well. That's definitely a visa class we can help with as well.
Yeah, the Immigration Department are really hesitant to grant visitor visas to just anybody and everybody. They are very careful about who they grant these visas to. They can also be picky about the countries that people come from, where there might be a high risk of people claiming protection once they get into Australia. So, you know, in some cases people might get a visitor visa, but really their intention is to get into Australia so that they can claim protection and apply for protection visas. And the protection visas are absolutely there for people who are genuine, and you know, it's not to be downplayed at all, because they're important visas to be available. And we're fortunate that Australia does have those visas available, but they are cautious about who they let in. If they kind of sense that there is you know, ulterior motives as to why it's not just a genuine visit that they want to come on, then they yeah, they will be very cautious about that. And like you say, they want to know that people are going to meet what's called the genuine temporary entrant criteria. In other words, you're going to go when you say you're going to go, and you're not going to overstay. And I guess speaking of overstaying, we want to be talking about this in maybe in our upcoming lives. We want to talk lots about people who have overstayed visas. We've seen a number of people come to us with that have overstayed their visas, and they're really worried, and they should be, because it's important not to have no visa. Like, you need a visa to be in Australia, otherwise you can fall into very big trouble. So, we will cover that. But if people are out there that hear this and know someone, or are aware of someone who has overstayed their visa and they don't know what to do, you can talk to us in confidence. We can help give you some advice. You might have an opportunity to apply for another visa and you don't realize it. And we do see this happen. So people are living in fear or worry, and they don't need to be. They've actually got options there, but it's important to talk to someone, preferably an immigration lawyer or a registered migration agent, to find out what your options are and, what you need to do. Arlette asked, is there a shortage of migration consultants in Australia? No, there's not a shortage at all. In fact, there's quite a few thousand.
Yeah.
But we find that as far as this area with New Zealand and Pacific Island people, definitely there's not enough experts in this field, in this particular area of migration law. Migration law is really broad. It's big. It's not possible to know everything about all the different visa pathways, etc., because there's about 100 odd different visas, and it's a little bit like, everyone kind of specialises in a certain few visas. We specialise in the ones that we know are going to assist our group of people, but yeah, it's not about the shortage. There's a shortage of people who specialise in this area. We're the only ones that we know of. So definitely there's room for others to come on board and help, because lots of people out there need this kind of help. I think that's it. Was there any other questions that came through that you guys can see?
Yeah, Kirsty on the
other page.
On our page has just asked a question: how do you become an Oz citizen through descent, i.e. grandmother born in Australia?
Okay. So we know that unfortunately, in order to become an Australian citizen by descent, you have to have your biological mother or biological father who is an Australian citizen. It can't be a grandparent, unfortunately. It has to be a parent.
And it has to be, it depends also when you were born, if you were born, and that parent can depend on if that parent had citizenship at the time.
They had to have had citizenship before you were born. That's right. So citizenship by descent is given to anyone who's born outside of Australia who has a parent who is an Australian citizen or was an Australian citizen. But not only that, you have to be able to prove it. So I've seen a few cases over the years where people have got an Australian parent, they were born outside of Australia, but they have not been able to get a hold of that Australian parent's birth certificate or passport or enough evidence to prove that, even though might be on that child's birth certificate. It's harder if they're not on the child's birth certificate. So those types of things all come into play. So it's not straightforward, but anyway, that's kind of how it works.
Hope that's answered your question, Kirsty.
Yeah. Did you have another one?
No.
Okay, good.
Well, Jadine, last one. Jadine, who's asked a few questions, and thank you. You're probably on live. I think she's watching, but she did ask, can someone who's had a visa cancelled come to Australia on a visitor visa? It all depends.
Look, the department says that you can apply for any visa you like once
Yes.
you're outside of Australia. What the department doesn't spell out necessarily is that you probably won't be able to come back in. I mean, it depends what your visa was cancelled.
Yeah.
On what grounds. Some visa cancellations will say that you have a 3-year ban period, a 10-year ban period. Some say it's a lifetime ban. I personally have not ever seen a visa granted to someone who has had a visa cancelled under Section 501. That's the character one.
Yeah.
And in special circumstances, you might be able to get that cancellation, that ban period waived, but I have never seen that done for a character one. I've seen it for others, but not that type. So it does depend what the cancellation, how the cancellation came about.
I think it's important to also have a look at the documentation that the person whose visa was cancelled, what it actually says on that letter, because normally those letters will outline things about, you know, future travel or conditions of what that cancellation actually means for them coming back to Australia. So.
That's right. That's right. Now, I just wanted to share something quickly. If people want, so we're working on the website, there's a frequently asked questions section on our website, which we've been building more answers, questions and answers to. So if people want to look at our website, there's that. There's also something really exciting that we've brought out as of today. And it's because Kathleen is a new migration agent and really keen to be able to speak with people. We are we're bringing back the 10-minute free chat phone call. So there's a booking system on our website. I'll just show you quickly. I'll share my screen. I know we've gone over time, but I think this is important before we finish the day. Okay, so can you see my screen? I'll close that. Can you all see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Cool. All right, so for those people out there that want to know more, there's a couple of ways you can find out some more information. So there's our frequently asked questions section. So this is moringamigration.com.au. Frequently asked questions, these are a whole lot of general questions. So, you know, what can you help me with and how much does it cost? If you open up each of those links, we have got answers to a whole variety of questions, like heaps of different types. There's questions about the VIVO checks. It's a visa verification entitlement, that long-winded one, basically what your visa check means. Also started a section here on the subclass 155 resident return visa, because we get asked lots and lots of questions about the resident return visa. So there's some questions there. There's also on our Facebook page, there is also, I'm not going to open it up here, but there, if you go to the messaging section, I've been building a whole lot of frequently asked questions there too. So if you click on in the messenger, there's a whole list of questions, and you might just want to know quickly what an answer is to something. So you can get an instant answer that way as well. And of course, we're putting our live videos up on our YouTube channel so that people can, if they've got time and nothing better to do, they can have a listen to the videos, and they might find some of the answers that they're looking for there. And we actually started building a section on our website where we're going to be talking about our successes, our successful cases, our unsuccessful cases, recent cases, so that we can put a whole lot of real life scenarios of cases that we've dealt with personally, so that people can have a look. If they're doing some research and they want to find something where it's similar to their situation. Remember, no two situations are the same, which is why the consultation is crucial. But we do understand that people like to do their own homework sometimes and their own research. Then we want to be able to create enough resources out there so people can do that themselves. So that's that part there. So frequently asked questions is a good one. And I'll just show you quickly where you can book the free 10-minute callback. So it's under the book a consultation link. And if you go, you can see booking a free 10-minute callback. And here we talk about how the service works to make the booking. There's some little terms and conditions. It really is, we'll only call people back who provide their proper name and details, their contact details. We've had ones in the past that just put random stuff in there. We won't call you back. And we also explain what our service doesn't include. So it's not appropriate for people who want specific advice for their individual cases, but it's good to be able to just chat to one of our team or one of our agents to just get an idea. So there's a couple of questions about our callback service. You know, how do I reschedule or change your booking? Why did I not receive a callback? And I've explained that, you know, we'll do our best to call you back within the time frame of the booking, but priority has to be given to urgent cases, and our caseload does change from day to day, sometimes from hour to hour. And if you click on the schedule a callback link here, it will open up, oh no, not that one, it will open up a calendar. Hang on, it must be on this link here. I'll have to go back and fix that one soon. So here it'll open up a calendar, and again it explains, we do ask you to go and check all the frequently asked questions first, because you might find your answer in the frequently asked questions before leaving the phone call. What to do, how to make a booking. So we've repeated what it includes, what it doesn't include. All these blue numbers are the days that we're available. So we're going to be available Monday to Thursday every week. What you do is we take up to 4 bookings every day. The times here are indicative. It's not really, if you book, say, in the 9 o'clock bracket, doesn't mean we're going to call you at 9 o'clock. It means that we're going to call you. You're going to be one of the 4 people that we call in the day between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 4 o'clock actually. But they're 10-minute calls, so anything that goes above 10 minutes is going to have to book a consultation, but a lot can be said in 10 minutes, so 10 minutes should be plenty. And here people just will click on a time, they'll confirm it, they'll fill out their name, email, phone number, date of birth, and just a couple of other questions. And it's important for people to just write their questions in here too, what they really want to know, and just tick the boxes to say that you agree with it, and then you can click schedule event. So that's new, and as of today, so those people that might be listening to us, you are the first to hear it. So we will be sharing this all over Facebook, and hopefully Kathleen will be good. I'll obviously jump in and support her, but I was explaining to Kathleen, this is how I learnt lots. It was from talking to people, listening to their scenarios, and researching and figuring out how we can help people. So this is a free service. This is normally $165, but we're offering it free so that we can, you know, we want to be able to provide what we can at no charge to our community, but also it gives Kathleen, our new migration agent, lots of practice.
I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, everyone get on board, because it's not going to be forever, is it, Edna? No, it's while we can cope, and at the moment we can cope with this. So it's up to 4 calls a day, and you'll just be calling up to 4 people and hopefully around this time next year, Glenda will be helping out with some calls.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, thank you. That's been like nearly an hour and a half. See how quickly the time goes.
Oh yeah, thank you.
And yeah, a big thank you to everyone that joined us in our live today, and hopefully we didn't miss anyone. If we've missed any questions, we'll try and answer them in the comments. We'll send you some links where you can find the answers, or we'll add it to our pile of questions for next week. But next week's live is going to be on Thursday, because I won't be here on Friday. So we'll do it Thursday, and And I think next week we'll talk about the overstayer stuff, people who don't have a visa. What do you reckon, Kathleen?
Why not? Let's do that.
Yeah, it's an important topic and it's an area we cover. So thank you, Kaz, for sharing your experience. I know that there'll be people out there really interested, and they might not have joined us today, but they'll come across, you know, your kōrero at some point, I'm sure, and it'll be very helpful.
Thank you, Glenda.
My pleasure.
And like Kathleen said, maybe this time next year you can be jumping in, helping with those 10-minute phone calls too. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Happy Friday. Have a good weekend.
Yes.
It's not a long weekend, so we all have to work a full 5-day week next week. Oh, awesome. All right. Now I'm going to work out how I stop this again. It goes. Oh, that's right. Stop live stream. All right.
Bye, everyone.